Hi, this is Dee at Aloha Astro, and today I'd like to talk about two celebrities whose birthdays are the same day, September 25th, but they are several years apart. That would be Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas. And today when I stopped on over at Astro.com, one of my favorite sites where I also generate free charts for my clients and store my chart data so that I can basically do a reading for anybody anywhere who has a computer and internet access, I decided to take a look at their charts and see what's going on for them and see how they are as a couple. Here we have Michael Douglas's chart, and I just took a brief look at the overall chart pattern for him and noted that he has a Scorpio ascendant, Leo at the midheaven, the cusp of the 10th house, which is a very creative and dramatic sign to have up at the midheaven. And since these two people are born the same day, I would expect that many of their personal planets are going to be in the same signs or very close to each other. Generally, these three planets, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun, are always at least in the same sign or one sign apart. They are never more than one sign on either side of each other. So they travel together as they move through the chart over the course of the year. And when we talk about our astrology sign, we're talking about our sun sign. There's the sun. But we are so much more than just our sun sign. And as you can see, there's a conjunction here of the Sun conjunct Neptune in his chart, and Mars is here also in Libra. So he has his these three planets are sitting in Libra, and they are in his 11th house, and that is a house that has a lot to do with the public, popularity, fame, recognition in front of many people, the desire to be able to get up and show your creativity to the world or to touch many people's lives. And so this is why he is particularly notable as a person and why he may be drawn to acting, to actually get up on a stage. Wherever we have Mars, we decide we want to get out and do something or act. It's where we show up in life, where we take action, where we are physically present. So he would want to be very busy in front of an audience or a group. Neptune conjunct the Sun. Neptune is very plastic and flexible, adaptable. It allows somebody to use imagination, imagery, to be able to present a picture or an ideal of something. So this serves him very well in his role as an actor. Now, I want to switch back over to her chart, and here we go. Catherine Zeta-Jones is also a very talented actor, and she has Mars in the first house, which is particularly forward-facing and assertive for a woman to have. And usually a person who has Mars in the first house can be very physically active. They want to make their mark upon the world. They want to get out there and do things. Her personal planets, which are also very busy up in the sign of Libra here. We have the Sun in Libra, and then we've got Mercury in Libra. Mercury conjunct Uranus is particularly intelligent, and she has these two planets conjunct each other. Also, Uranus is conjunct her Sun. So these three all together make her incredibly intelligent, very sharp, very bright, probably multilingual. I don't know anything about her really, other than I've seen her in a few movies and find her to be very talented and personable. These three planets would lead me to think that she is probably highly skilled at multiple languages, or that she has a gift of being able to do different accents and be able to present a different type of an energy just by changing her voice or speaking in a different tone of voice. So the ability to be very good with language is strong here in her chart. as is the intelligence. These planets sit in her ninth house. The ninth house rules higher education, philosophy, publishing, writing, speaking. It is a house of information gathering and sharing, and a house of experience gathering and sharing. So she probably is very driven in her lifetime to do many, many things. I'm not sure if she will ever feel that she is complete enough or that she has learned enough. I think she will always be seeking to learn more and do more. I also feel that because she has this configuration you see here, let me just scroll down so you can see it all. This is called a T-square, this red triangle. It joins her Sun conjunct Pluto, Uranus, Mercury, and it ties in Mars in the first house and the Moon in the third house, which is another communication house, much like the ninth. This potentially makes her feel as though she is never quite perfect, or that she has not found all that there is to find. But I think that other people do not judge her that way. She judges herself that way. This is a very self-involved T-square with the Sun opposing the Moon. And all her actions are probably geared toward becoming more, or satisfying something on the emotional level where she feels that she has some control. Pluto has a lot to do with control, where she has power or control in knowing all that she possibly can, or seeing everything that she possibly can. The Sagittarius ascendant, this is actually the ruling sign of the ninth house. So this may spur her even further to want to see as much as she can in this lifetime, and continually be moving forward to learn more, to meet more people, to see more places. Now, she does have something that helps ground her in her life as well, and I do feel that it is very family oriented. That would be her grand trine right here, involving Venus in the 8th house. The 8th house is where we share our boundaries, merge our boundaries, and share our assets with others. So it rules numerous things: sex, death, taxes, metaphysics and the occult, insurance, investments, real estate investments, inheritances of any kind, business partnerships. She most likely has a very strong family behind her and will leave something to her family when she leaves this planet, that she would be building a legacy for her family. And this is one of the things that drives her, especially on the material level. Her Venus is in Virgo, which is very needs-oriented and shows love by what it does, how it provides for somebody else and takes care of basic needs. To be of service is Virgo's expression of love. And Venus rules the affectionate nature, things that feel pleasurable or comfortable or familiar. Mars, as I said, is action. Her Mars is in Capricorn, which is a cardinal earth sign and very grounded, very success-oriented, wants to climb to the top of that mountain and does it steadily, builds foundations or platforms upon which to grow and expand. Saturn is in Taurus, and that is very materially oriented. Taurus says, I have. It is the natural ruling sign of the second house of personal finances. And with her North Node in the second house in Pisces, she wants to be able to see wealth or means accumulate in her life, not just for herself and her family, but for others too. Probably in her mind she feels that everybody should have enough, that we are in an abundant place and that everybody should have their needs met and taken care of. I have the feeling that with Neptune, which is the ruler of Pisces, in her 11th house of groups and organizations and humanity as a whole, that she may do some very big things on the material level that has to do with taking care of needs, helping people to have security or the basic needs of life, food, shelter, support for families. And I do think that based on the transits to her chart, that she may be coming into a time period where she is stepping into her own personal power, with Pluto transiting through the first house for the next at least 7 years, and it's already been there for a number of years. Also, Saturn is soon to be approaching her Neptune in the 11th house. Now, while this can bring her more work in the film industry, I have the feeling that Chiron approaching, and Neptune as well, approaching her lunar north node, which is her life purpose, is possibly going to push her toward doing something that is more world-oriented, philanthropic work of some kind, establishing foundations or helping with existing foundations that help people. Or she may invert for a bit and spend more time on establishing things within her own family to give her family more grounding. With Jupiter soon approaching her Venus in the 8th house, activating this grand trine, that may be one of her primary things within the next year and a half, to see that her family is taken care of and that it is secure and everybody's needs are met, and that she leaves something, builds something real and solid for her family, not just on the material level, but also in terms of stability and security. I think she will weigh the value of family and the security and stability of tradition and family if she does come to a juncture in her relationship with Michael. This may be very important to her at this point in time. Now, her T-square does indicate that there can be some issues in relationship with men in general, and maybe even outside of relationship, outside of intimate relationships, that she may have some conflict in the male-dominated industry or world, and she may assert herself and take on some masculine type of energy when she is dealing with other people, when it comes down to her ideas or how she wants to express herself. The need to assert herself is very strong, and she's not afraid to be independent, basically. She's willing to be independent if it means being true to herself. Now, let's take a look and see what's going on for both of them. I Googled to see if they are together, because I seem to recall hearing something about the relationship being on the rocks, and it seems that they are together now. They went through a rough patch, so I was curious to see what they've got going on between them and the two charts. And here we can see that he's on the outer ring, the red planets. She's on the inner ring, and you can see we've got that T-square very active here between them. His moon joins her Mars in a very tight conjunction. This is significant. I feel he already had seen her from the story I read of how they met. He spotted her first and had an interest in her, and that's evident by the moon conjunct her Mars in the first house. Her Mars would be how she presents herself to the world, and I think he was very taken with her visually and emotionally when he first became aware of her. And this right here is particularly powerful. It indicates that there's an unusual relationship between the two of them, but it is also highly romantic, particularly on his side, because Neptune is involved. His Neptune is involved. I think that they are probably very good for each other, and that she respects his mind very much. And he respects hers as well. There's some good communication going on here, and I do believe that she was probably attracted to him because he is older and not among her peers, that he is different from the group, her age group, or perhaps people that she normally associated with before she met him. And he probably was different enough or had more life experience and intelligence, a different way of thinking, and this might have been a key thing in the attraction between the two of them. I do feel that they were in a marital relationship, possibly in a past life. That has to do with her south node and Pluto conjunct his Chiron. And if so, it probably ended as a result of a death or some crisis or drama that intervened. And I feel that his soul may have asked for the opportunity or the grace to come back and follow through on the relationship for it to continue. They do not seem to have significant north node, no conjunctions of planets to either one's north node. So there is no heavy karmic debt to be paid. This was simply a desire, probably on his part, to finish something that he didn't have the chance to continue. And I do think that there was a powerful link, and there is even now. His Pluto joins her vertex, and that is a rather tight link between the two of them, that I do think that he is very much affected by her and very drawn to her. So let me take a look now at the Magi astrology for these two. In the Magi chart for them, here's Catherine's data and Michael's data, and this is the resulting Magi chart, which looks a little bit different than what you see at astro.com. Magi Astrology Society doesn't look at houses. They are concerned with aspects, the exchange of energy between two charts, between two people, how their planets interact with each other. So I can take a look up here, and I can look at their pure linkages. There are several, not a significantly large number when compared to their clashes. Now, keep in mind that they have some challenge in their own individual natal charts, and I do feel that relationships are often meant to be challenging so that they activate things within us, so that we grow, so that we do the work that we've agreed to do within our own charts, that we step up to our own squares and oppositions within our own natal charts. And when we meet somebody who presses certain buttons, and especially if there are plenty of squares and oppositions going on as they have here, this can indicate that it's agreed upon work. They are meant to be pushing each other towards certain things, activating things within each other. And I do think that one of the things that they would be working on in this lifetime is to actually stay together. Chiron, according to the Magi Astrology Society, is a significant planet in terms of romance, long-term relationship and commitment, marriage. It is the asteroid/planet that they consider in what they call Cinderella aspects. A Cinderella aspect can definitely indicate that you and the other person, if you have a Cinderella between you, are more likely to want to fall in love, marry, have a family, children. Even the challenging Chiron aspects, which are almost like an anti-Cinderella and make it more challenging or difficult to get together, still indicate some sort of a family relationship or the desire to care for each other, but it requires work when you see an aspect such as this. Chiron opposing Neptune and the Sun here indicates that there is some work involved in sticking together, in taking care of the family, in going for the long term. Now, they do have a Cinderella between them, which helps hold them together, and it is a Pluto-Chiron conjunction, and that is one of the least romantic Cinderellas, but it can be very powerful and controlling. It can keep two people together out of a sheer force of will or an obsession with each other, where they are going to stick it out no matter what, where they, would rather be with each other than with somebody else. So now I'm going to take a look at all the aspects again, but I'm going to leave out the sextiles. Magi doesn't consider them very significant for in the interpretation of the relationship. I feel that when people already have many close conjunctions or strong aspects or geometry patterns between the charts, the sextiles are like the icing on the cake or the gravy. They are mild or benign, and we always have some sextiles with friends, good friends. It's what makes us feel comfortable with them or relaxed. So having sextiles can help a relationship, but it doesn't make or break a relationship. So I'm leaving them out of here and just showing the significant key relationship aspects at the moment. And now we can go over to the interpretation file. I offer this on my website, where you can get the written report between you and another person for the romance compatibility, and it comes with interpretations that you can read through. And keep in mind that these sometimes sound like a good news, bad news story. Nobody has entirely 100% perfect relationship comparison with anybody else. And in fact, the ironic thing that I've found is that the more harmony there seems to be between two people, the less interest they sometimes have in each other. Also, some people seem to be drawn to relationships that agitate them or stir up energy within them, and if they run into somebody who simply makes them feel calm and peaceful, that won't do. They need to find people who stir them up. So the squares and the oppositions between two people can be very spicy, and they can form things that Magi calls romantic where'd it go? They are supersexual linkages, and these two have that. They have clashes and favorable aspects, especially involving Juno. And Juno is very sexual. It has a lot to do with two people who are drawn to each other. Very often they don't have children because they are so into each other, or they have children from other marriages. Now, there are other things, obviously, between Catherine and Michael in their chart comparison that led them to have children, and those would probably be the Neptune aspects that made them have children. But still, with all the Juno aspects that they have between each other, sometimes it is more about them as a couple and the things that they have to work out with each other. And just like two magnets, when you hold them opposing poles against each other, the way they push away from each other, the clashes that these two have between each other can have that type of energy, but it is still an intense energy that can be felt. So they may vacillate back and forth between an extreme attraction and then needing to be apart from each other and then pulling back together, because they do have this very strong supersexual energy involving Juno. So as I said, this type of a aspect by aspect report can sound like good news, bad news story. What an astrologer does is look at the charts, look at each individual chart, look at reports like this. I particularly like to consider Magi, but I don't base everything on it either, because there's more to it than that. And I do feel that houses are important, and if people have planets in significant relating houses in our chart, we are more likely to be involved with them in relationship. If some of their planets sit in relating houses for us, then we are going to be more drawn to do the dance with them. If they're in impersonal houses or houses that have nothing to do with relating, then probably it would not become serious. So one thing that jumped out here is that there's some volatile energy, and there's some what I would consider, like I had mentioned, an anti-Cinderella. Sun opposing her Chiron, his sun opposing her Chiron. This can sometimes feel as though you're with the wrong person, or should I have done this? However, they have some lifetime linkages, especially on a friendship level, that makes them want to stick it out, or makes them always like each other even when they are apart, that they wouldn't hold anything against the other person for very long if they decide to spend time apart. They do have a Uranian link between them, which we will see in the next page. Some fighting is possible, but as I said, there's spice here, or there's possibly the clashes and the heightened drama or energy between the two of them is part of it. They may stimulate each other toward doing things in their lives, and they may push each other and activate each other's charts, so that even when it appears that there may be conflict, it is actually growth. This is their Cinderella linkage, and this can be very strong. Okay, let's move on down to the end here. These Vesta linkages are especially good for their relationship from the friendship level. This can keep them lovers for a long, long time because Neptune is involved. And now let's take a look at the next page, where we look at the declinations. Okay, there's some good communication. This link here, Sun parallel Uranus, many famous couples in the entertainment business, as you can see it says here, often have that link together, being seen in the public eye. This one right here helps them a great deal with not just communication and understanding each other, but forgiveness, having tolerance for the other person. And I do think they admire each other's minds. He certainly admires her very much on the romantic and sexual level, has a deep attraction with her. And here we have some more romance linkages. This is one that kind of balances out where we had the negative or the challenging Chiron moon and Chiron sun aspects. On the other page, here we have Chiron parallel the sun, and this can indicate that they are going to maintain a relationship because it does give trust and the feeling of wanting to be together or belonging together. And here we have Chiron contra parallel the moon. So these two right here balance out the previous two. Now here's where they have on and off. Anybody who has a relationship where Uranus factors in, especially with Chiron, the marriage planet or the family planet, is going to have a need for time out or a need to keep the relationship open enough to allow friends in. These two cannot shut out the world or other friends. They can also not limit each other in growth. They need to be able to understand that although they love each other, they are both different and they both have different interests that they need to be able to develop on their own, or friends outside of the relationship. They need to allow each other some space from time to time so that they can bring something back to the relationship. And that would be the number one thing that I would suggest for the both of them. And from what I saw on one of the celebrity gossip pages, it looks as though they came to that understanding, or that was expressed, that they had some time apart and now they're back together. This Saturn bond can particularly help them in terms of a choice to stay together. Saturn doesn't necessarily keep people together romantically. It keeps people together in terms of commitment and deciding that they're going to stay true to their word, or that it is better for them to be together as a couple. And I feel that this would also affect them in terms of their public image. That this one aspect here indicates that they would possibly stay together because they know as a couple that it benefits both of them in terms of their bigger picture, in terms of their celebrity status and their future work. And here we have a composite chart of the two charts. This is the midpoint method, not locational method. It takes the midpoint between each person's sun, each person's moon, each person's Mercury, and so on. And it creates a separate chart which represents the relationship as if it were a separate entity. And it can show a great deal about the relationship. Here it shows that they are well viewed by the public and that they are in the public eye. They're a popular couple. Libra rules the 7th house. Here's the 7th house and the descendant line. Libra rules this line and this house, the 7th house of relationship and marriage and partnership. And they are both Libras. They are also both Queen of Heart cards in the Destiny card system. So they are same birth cards, and the Queen of Hearts happens to be one of the marriage cards. It is concerned with mastery of the heart, mastery of relationship, and popularity too, the social appeal with the public. So they are, queens in the public eye, and they also may choose to remain together as a couple because of that same birthday, same birth card similarity, that they understand that they put this out to the public as an image. And here we have Neptune in the 11th house, the group, the organization, the public, their fame. Neptune represents the image or the projected picture, the idealism, the fantasy, how things look, how they want things to appear, and they represent an ideal to us. Venus and Jupiter conjunct Mercury. Well, the Sun here is actually at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So as a couple, I would think that this tightens things up. Libra can literally be in two minds about something and sometimes need to work on compromise or going off into individual corners before they get back together. However, here we have the fixed nature of Scorpio with the Sun, and Scorpio is an all or nothing sign. It goes to extremes. So I have the feeling that they would work at the commitment and staying together because of the Sun in Scorpio here in the composite chart. Okay, Saturn on the descendant in retrograde. I feel that this is very significant in terms of the long-term commitment in the relationship. It forms a trine to Mercury. It forms a trine to the moon. I think that they have a commitment to each other that they would want to uphold because of their popularity. Gemini energy has a lot to do with how people see you in terms of popularity or the general public, people that we treat as brothers or sisters or who we identify with. And I do think that they would want to present that united front, and that they would also be aware that this has an impact, that the public impacts their finances. This is the 2nd house of money. The moon is in Aquarius, which rules the 11th house of fame and the stage, the audience. So there is a strong connection there between the 11th and the 2nd house. And the moon wants to keep the money flowing from the public, the popularity from the public. If they were to break, and here we have Uranus opposing the moon, Uranus in the 8th house, which indicates that at times there can be instability within that commitment or the desire for individuality and some change. And if they were to break, I think that this would have an impact on their finances, where they may have a lengthy court battle financially, and it may affect the family, and it may also affect their future earning potential simply because of their public appeal. I think that it would hurt them in terms of how the public sees them because of this square between Uranus in Leo, which is very dramatic. It says, here I am, look at me, and the square to Neptune in the 11th house. So it is to their advantage to stay together and to work together for the benefit of family. The lunar north node in this chart, which is purpose, life purpose, is in the 6th house of service-related work, and it's in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is a very grounded, fixed earth sign that rules material things and also favors family, the stability and security of family. So I would definitely hope that they work through whatever issues they might have in relationships so that they can remain together. Going back to their combined charts here, this helps keep them together and is the counterbalance. You can almost see it in the geometry that it tethers it down, it ties it down and gives this T-square, these red lines of the oppositions and the squares, where there can be tension between the two of them, and her desire perhaps for some independence or wanting to have her own experiences, even if he would rather share his wisdom and say, well, been there, done that, honey, you can just, you don't have to go do that. And she may say, well, yes, I do. I have to go experience this for myself. This helps balance this T-square. The Moon and Mars conjunction, his Moon conjunct her Mars, trine to her Venus and trine to her Saturn. And this indicates that he would honor her integrity toward commitment in relationship and toward family, the stability in family and being the mother of children and taking care of the family. So whether it would be his own desire for some independence, which I have the feeling this is a resonance here. She has Uranus and the Sun conjunct. And here he's got energy going on between Mars and Uranus. She can identify with his desire for sowing wild oats, having adventure, excitement, fun, meeting new people, doing new things, getting attention, alleviating boredom. She can understand all that. She can maybe even forgive a great deal. Yet they still need to be together. This is strongly evident in so much that I see here, particularly for the benefit of family, that is their primary thing together, and that he strongly desires the opportunity to go back to a relationship that may have been prematurely ended by something like death or destruction that prevented him from fully being with her long term. Neptune wants to be able to give her more or make sacrifices for her, or he holds a romantic ideal on the emotional level because his moon is involved to care for her in a family way, even if sometimes they are at odds. So this is an interesting couple with a slightly complicated chart comparison. However, it works, and I hope that they can weather the different transits to their charts as they move through life. He is definitely in a different cycle than her, with Saturn moving through the first house now. This is significant for him. When Saturn enters the first house of somebody's chart, they are looking at life in a new and more serious way, and he may be looking for some slowing down or retirement, or wanting to look at the next whole full cycle of Saturn the rest of his life in terms of what does he want and where does he want to cut back, limit, slow down, take stock, build for the future in a way that's slow, sure, and steady. And meanwhile, she's got Pluto moving through the first house. This is one thing that I think may have an effect on them long term, where one has much more power in wanting to create some pretty big things in life and step into some personal power that can literally move mountains, whereas he may be ready to do a certain type of settling that she is not quite ready to do at this time. It may be that at this point in time their age gap becomes something that they have to deal with, whereas before it may not have seemed to be such a big age gap. She's kind of powering up and he is kind of settling in or slowing down. But it is family that I think holds them together, and a very strong sexual and romantic link, and one very powerful Cinderella. So I wish this birthday couple the best, and thank you for stopping by and listening.